information a lot faster than I can correct it. Let me just mention, back to an earlier comment of this, he says, when I said if the self-replicating molecule occurred, then this would happen, right away I left science when I put if in front of the sentence. Now that's ludicrous if you know anything about science or logic. It's filled with statements. If this were true or is true, then this would follow. And we pursue those logical trains to try to get a deeper view of reality. Furthermore, he takes the longest DNA molecule and has it create itself with all its additional evolved complexity out of nothing. What you're imagining is a little snippet of RNA that starts self-replicating. Now, regarding his chimpanzee foolishness, all of that is nonsense, and trust me on that. I've spent 15 years trying to master genetics and evolutionary genetics, and I think I know a little bit about it. It is nonsense to say 48,000 nucleotides are missing from chimpanzee to humans. They have not difference in nucleotide number, but a difference in what they are. That's the 1.6% we're talking about. We're not saying that chimps are missing it or we're missing it. Furthermore, he says if you have 3 nucleotides missing, that is fatal. That is nonsense. That is only true within genes, and then it's only true within some locations within genes. And if you look at our total genome, which is 3 billion nucleotides, only about 1 to 5% of those nucleotides actually consist of genes. All the others you can delete nucleotides up to hundreds and have the organism unaffected. That's well-known genetics.
About the biblical inbreeding. Do you believe that many male and female animals of the same species evolve simultaneously? If not, doesn't the theory of evolution fail where you say the creationist flood belief fails, i.e., inbreeding would still be necessary to propagate the species in the evolutionary viewpoint?
Sorry, can I read that? I don't comprehend it. Do you believe that many male and female animals of the same species evolve simultaneously? Well, when you've got 2 sexes, yes. If not, doesn't the theory of evolution fail where you say the creationist flood belief fails? Inbreeding would still be necessary for propagating the species in the evolutionary viewpoint. I'm a little bit befuddled by the question. The 2 sexes in sexually reproducing species evolve together and in a complementary mode. I don't understand, if not, you're saying, does the theory of evolution fail? Well, if they didn't evolve simultaneously and interdependently, it'd be hard to understand how one of them managed to reproduce without the other. The rest of the question I don't understand. I will say one thing about the evolutionary approach to issues that are in the Bible. The Bible tells another one of these little fantasies for adults, but one that Dr. Hogan wants to embrace and bring people to the Lord over. And that is that God, when he created us, created Adam first. Adam is the major one. Adam is the male, the man, the dominant and important figure in our species. He said he needs to help me. He caused a deep sleep to follow. He removed the rib. He formed Eve out of it. Never mind, there's no evidence for that. Nobody's dipping the ribs and so on. The point is, from evolutionists, that's completely backward. There's no such thing as an all-male species for obvious reasons. We ain't capable of producing offspring by ourselves. There are hundreds of thousands, trust me, of species that consist of all female because they can reproduce themselves. So some of these biblical stories, told with the old masculine name and with a fairy tale to fit that, I think are unfortunate, to put it mildly, and directly contradicted by a deeper knowledge of biology.
All right, his notion that the sexes evolve simultaneously is pure fantasy. There's no evidence for that whatsoever. If he wishes to believe that, that's fine, but I would like to hear a clear explanation of how you go from asexual reproduction to sexual reproduction, and how this happened mechanically. You know, there's all kinds of problems can happen. I taught biology and anatomy. I think I can handle any evidence you can give if you think you have some concrete evidence other than a fairy tale. Well, it must have happened because we're here. I think the question, though it is a little convoluted, was asked, doesn't evolution have the same problem that the creationists claim? The creationists would claim all the dogs in the world came from 2 dogs on Noah's Ark. The question, I think, is asking if evolution happened at some point long ago and far away, you had a dog evolve. Don't you have the very same problem if there are 250 or 400 varieties of dogs today? They all had to come from that dog. So you still got the inbreeding problem, only now you put it long ago and far away. It's no different. Yes, you have the very same problem. I agree. It's a good question, I thought.
Dr. Roman, this question to you. What evidence is available to support creation?
Well, I don't think you have to light a candle to see the sun. I think if you walk into the woods and you find a painting hanging on a tree, it's logical to conclude there was a painter, even if you don't ever see the painter. If you don't find any footprints, you find no evidence. You find a painting, that's proof there was a painter. If you walk into the woods and you find a building, that's evidence there was a builder, even if you can't find the guy. If these paleontologists are digging through the dirt around here and they find an arrowhead, they automatically conclude it was man-made. They would never dream that an arrowhead fashioned out of flint was a naturally occurring object. Naturally occurring objects are easily distinguishable from man-made artifacts, and it's distinguishable by most 5-year-olds. I think if you find a creation, you'll say there must have been a creator. Now, who was the creator? Is it Allah or Buddha or Jehovah? That's a whole different set of arguments, but the fact is, there must have been a designer. I think the design itself, the design of the universe at every level, micro to macro, proves there was a designer. I was in Japan. I did not see the guy who makes the Casio Databank watch, but I think it's logical for me to sit here in New Jersey and say there must have been a designer for this watch. These things don't happen by themselves. And this watch is child's play compared to one cell in a given body. One cell in a given body is more complex than a space shuttle. It's the most complex thing ever built by man. And if anybody wants to think that happened by chance, they're welcome to believe that, but that is a wildly silly religion. It's not science. That's design is evidence of a designer.
Just a couple of things. The design is, evidence of designer is such a feeble argument. It was handled hundreds of years ago, long before evolutionary theory. But let me point out 2 things. First of all, he says if he goes out in the woods and sees a painting hanging on a tree, it's logical to conclude. He didn't see it, but it's logical to conclude that someone painted it and hung it there. And I agree with it. But I don't know why it is when I, or a fellow scientist, finds it logical to conclude something that we haven't seen with our naked eye, that we're off there in fantasy land trying to sell our religion and force tax dollars on you all to sell it to your children. But he's permitted to make logical conclusions. It's silly. It's no definition or understanding of how science actually works. The rest of his argument boils down to one assertion: the world exists, therefore someone had to create it. That's the logical structure of it, no more, no less.
This question is Dr. Trivers. Have we ever observed new information added to the gene pool of any kind?
Well, yes. Again, you can go to bacteria, if you don't mind a really humble example, where they have numerous mechanisms for adding genetic material to them, in part because they have very spare genomes, typically. There's